So, have you ever found yourself looking for the best action RPGs, but you don't want to go back 10, 15, 20 years? Maybe you want to play some action RPGs that are actually pretty recent still, some action RPGs that have come out in the last 5 or 6 years, ones that have released in the 2020s, some actual new games for your PS5, not just some remakes or remasters, but brand new action RPGs. Well, I got the video for you. Today we're going to be talking about the 10 best modern action RPGs you could play. There's obviously been dozens of action RPGs throughout the 2020s, but I have chosen 10 bangers that I absolutely think are worth your time. This list is in no particular order, and again, I'm only talking about games released in the last 5 years, and there's not going to be any remasters on here whatsoever. I want to talk about new experiences. But as always, let me know down below what your favorite action RPGs are. Let's get a discussion going. I'd love to know what games you think I should play. And just because a game isn't on this list doesn't mean that I think it's bad. It means it just didn't make the list or I haven't played it. So please like, share, comment, subscribe. I got the Patreon and the super thanks. Any support is truly greatly appreciated. Shout out to all my members. Thank you all so very much. You all are allowing me to live my dream out. So genuinely, I am grateful from the bottom of my heart. So let's get to the games. So I thought I would kick things off with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I know I said that I was looking for new experiences and no remasters or remakes, but I think Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is so different from the original game in so many different ways outside of the story and the locations you go to, that it absolutely is a new experience here. Yes, the story does continue on from the remake, and if you've played the original game, you're going to have some idea where things go, but there are plenty of new twists and turns here. And I think the storytelling of this game is just absolutely incredible. I think it's incredibly captivating. There's no bad character here. Everything is so fleshed out. The world is so expansive and has a really high attention to detail. Really enjoyed the story to this one, but I also really enjoyed the gameplay also. It very much is an action RPG where it's a mix of the menus and almost character action combat here as well. All of the characters play completely different from each other. You can switch between them really whenever you want, and it is genuinely some of the best action RPG combat you'll find of any video game, not just modern games. Like, it is incredible. I loved all of them. Playing as Cloud was fun, Tifa was great, Barrett's a good time. And they're all actually different from how they were in the remake, but some of the new characters who I didn't expect to like as much are actually great too. Kate Sith is a good time, Red 13's awesome, Yuffie's enjoyable, and then there's all these really cool team-up abilities, all these different extra moves that are thrown in there. And there's just so much synergy to this combat. It's rewarding, there's a lot of depth, it's satisfying, and it can even get challenging at times. The combat really is just this awesome sandbox that you get to play in, and there's so many different enemies and bosses in this game. The bosses are a real highlight. There's some really cool shit here, and I thought it was always impressive. I think the game graphically is extremely impressive. Like, it's just a great looking game. The environments are excellent, the character models are good. Like, what is there to complain about here when it comes to the overall presentation? I really enjoy the open worlds to Rebirth as well. I know that some people don't. They say it's too Ubisoft-like, and fair point, they absolutely can feel like that to a certain extent, but I also just really did enjoy my time in them. I had fun exploring, seeing everything, and doing all of the checklists. I love Rebirth. It's a massive, gargantuan game that'll keep you busy for a very long time, but totally worth it, especially if you're a fan of the original. So the next one we got here is actually the newest game with Nioh 3. Now, Nioh 2, which came out back in 2020, was pretty awesome. But Nioh 3, which came out a few months ago, oh, this one is just absolutely incredible. And it's easily one of the best Souls-likes ever made, which, yes, are very much RPGs. When it comes to this game's story, I'll be the first to admit, it's pretty lacking. There's plenty of time travel shenanigans, but this is most certainly not a game you are playing for its plot. This is a game that you're probably playing for the combat. The combat is unironically like the best combat of any Souls-like or Souls-related game. There is so much depth and complexity to this combat. There are tons of different weapons to this game, 20 plus, and they're all super unique. They all have their own unique movesets, pros, cons, etc., and they all feel great to use. You'll switch between these two styles, ninja and samurai. Samurai is where you have the 3 stances, and it's actually pretty similar to Nioh 1 and 2. Ninja is this new one where you're super fast and you have all these other tools to use. There's just so much going on here, more than Nioh 1 and 2 ever had. There's tons of different enemies, new and returning. There's a lot of bosses. And then there's just an ass load of content to this one. The game features several big open worlds, each filled to the brim with things to do. And what I really like about these open worlds is they don't feel like these big flat dystopian wastelands. They don't feel like they belong in a Ubisoft game. What it feels like is a bunch of Nioh 1 and 2 levels just combined together. Instead of you doing missions like the first two games, they just crammed all of the levels together, and I think it actually works. It's pretty seamless, there's tons of side missions, and I enjoyed my time in it. The game's difficulty is pretty on point as well. I think the game does a great job actually easing players into the difficulty. I heard tons of people go, oh, this game's way too easy when they only played the first few hours. Yeah, the game is pretty easy at first. Eventually though, oh, it gets hard, really freaking hard, and towards the end of the game, it might be the hardest of the Nioh titles, but I also find it to be extremely rewarding. I thought it was incredibly rewarding to build out my character also, focus on a few weapons, and actually have, you know, a build of some kind. If you're somebody that does enjoy Souls-likes in any way, shape, or form, this really is a must-play in my opinion. So the next one we got here is one that I don't think I bring up enough in a positive light, and that is Dragon's Dogma 2. Now, Dragon's Dogma 2 might be incredibly similar to the original game, to a point, and it's absolutely done on purpose, but it's actually a pretty good action RPG, all things considered. It does a lot of things that are very different from basically every other game on this list. It might have an open world, but this is an open world you are going to become very familiar with. Fast travel is super limited, there's a lot of exploration, the game sees you going all over this world for various reasons, and it's all very visually stunning for the most part. I know when the game launched there were some technical issues, those have been ironed out by this point. And what you have here is one of the most detailed action RPGs of the entire decade. My favorite part of Dragon's Dogma 2 has got to be the combat. There's a number of different classes to choose from in this game. They all play super differently from each other, and they're all a whole lot of fun. Especially the classes that allow you to get physical, these just feel great for the most part. You can absolutely fuck these enemies up and destroy them. This game has no problem throwing tons of enemies at you at once, and you'll just absolutely wipe the floor with them by the end of the game. There's also these really big monsters you get to take on, and while they might throw a few too many at you, it's still pretty impressive the first few times. The game's pacing and storyline might be a little less than desirable, but I still did enjoy almost all of the time I spent with this one. It's a pretty big game that you can put a fair amount of time into, and while it's not the absolute best action RPG of this list or the 2020s, I still thought it was pretty good, and if you didn't play the original, I think you're really going to like this one. If you did play the original, it's going to be very familiar, but still fun. Alright, you knew it was going to be here, at least I didn't start the video with it. Good old Ring of Elden, we gotta have this one on the list. Maybe the greatest Souls/Souls-like game of them all. Ring of Elden really is the unstoppable force that seems to just end up in almost every single one of my fucking videos. But what can I say? I absolutely love this game to pieces. From the moment I played it all the way until I saw the credits, I knew I was playing something special. A truly generational game that has left its impact for many years now. Not many open worlds have ever felt this alive, this detailed, with this many nooks and crannies, with this many secrets that are actually rewarding. It's one of the best open worlds ever to be in a video game. But obviously the game is more than the open world, there's the action RPG side of things, and the combat, I think it's great. It's like the best combat From Software has ever made. It's faster than what was in Dark Souls and Bloodborne, but it's not stupid fast like Sekiro. There's tons of different weapons to choose from. They all have their own strengths and weaknesses, there's a bunch of special abilities. There actually is a bit of strategy when it comes to your weapon and how you're fighting things in this game. It's more than just pick a big stick, whack and roll a few times. It doesn't go as in-depth as say Nioh 3, but I still think the combat is very enjoyable. There's tons upon tons of bosses here. So many of them are absolutely incredible, just truly unforgettable stuff. And then of course you get to customize your build, how you want your character to be, what you want them to be proficient in. There's tons of hidden side quests here. The story might not be given to you up front, and a lot of people question the storytelling of these games. I do myself, but it's actually pretty cool. Especially if you start delving into the lore, then Elden Ring's story becomes something else. The game still looks really good, the music's absolutely incredible. We could honestly be here all day glazing Elden Ring. I've already spent several days glazing Elden Ring. That's enough glazing. Let's move on to the next game. You already know this game's goated. So here's another I'd be gassing the fuck up, but not with gasoline because that shit's too expensive, with Cyberpunk 2077. Hey, I said the last 5 years, this game is not 5 years old yet, but it sure is close to hitting that 5-year mark. But let's be real, 5 years ago, this wasn't a very good game. It didn't really become a great game until the last 2 or 3 years. Then the game went from bad to aight to pretty freaking good to getting on this list. Cyberpunk 2077, what is there really left to say about this one at this point? While it's clearly not for everybody, I believe that this is one of the best action RPGs of the 2020s and really one of the most influential RPGs to come out over the last few years. It feels like they took the formula from Witcher and Fallout and even Elder Scrolls to an extent and really moved it into the next generation where it's a lot more seamless, there's a lot of RPG elements, and it really is something special. I love the story to Cyberpunk 2077. The world is so intriguing, all of the characters are great, there's not a bad character here, the dialogue is excellent, the main plot line is really great, and I think all of the endings are actually very well done, but this game is more than just its story. There's the delightful open world, there's the many side quests you can find yourself getting wrapped up in, and then there's the combat. I think the combat, which is, yes, an action RPG, that's why it's on the list here, is pretty great also. The guns actually feel nice, you can really customize your character, there's plenty of different builds, there's a lot of crafting, and it doesn't actually suck ass, the enemies aren't dumb as rocks. The combat's very enjoyable. I think the game is really great pacing throughout. It's actually worth it to do a lot of these side quests. You're going to spend a lot of time in Night City, and that's fine with me because it's one of the most detailed open worlds you will find of any video game. It's so well done, and then the expansion Phantom Liberty is also really great as well. And then it might have taken several more years, but this is a very polished experience. If you're somebody who hasn't checked out Cyberpunk 2077 at this point, I think it's worth checking out. And I think it's pretty fair to say that this game is better than anything Bethesda has put out in about 10 years now. So I thought I would include a bit of a more unconventional pick for a list like this, but I got Monster Hunter Rise. Yes, this very much is not the latest Monster Hunter, it's not Wilds or Stories 3, but I kind of think this is the best Monster Hunter game of them all. It's the one that I've certainly had the most fun with. It very much is a Monster Hunter game through and through. You pick which monster you're hunting, you go after them, it's as simple as that. And I've always considered these games action RPGs. They might not have a ton of role-playing elements to them. You're not totally customizing your build here. You're really just customizing what weapon and armor you go into. And there's no big, deep narrative or surprisingly detailed open world. It's just all about you taking on those monsters, but it's a hell of a lot of fun. I think the combat feels excellent in this game, some of the best of the entire franchise. And then the movement options are so good in this game. You can actually move around real quick on your dog. There's the wire bug. There's never been a monster hunter to feel as agile as you are in this game. You feel damn near like Spider-Man at times. But obviously that's only the hunting part of Monster Hunter. What about the monsters themselves? Oh, there's so many cool monsters here. Ton of fan favorites return, but there's a bunch of cool new ones as well. They've all got their own strategies to take down. And most of them do a good job at feeling like these big, towering, imposing forces, ready to just crush you, ready to knock you over like you're a bunch of bowling pins in the bowling alley or something. Monster Hunter's always done a great job at making the player feel weak as shit compared to them as you're constantly just whittling down these monsters, and I think Rise does an excellent job at this. I enjoy the hunting, I enjoy the fights. The game absolutely has that addicting quality where you do want to do the grind so you can get the new armor or the new weapon. There's these interesting new fights where you take on a bunch of monsters at once and you defend a base. There's an absolute shit ton of content. If you're somebody who's even kinda interested in the Monster Hunter franchise, this is absolutely one that is worth your time. And if you're somebody who's never played any of these games before, I think this is a great starting point as well. So while I honestly could have just included a bunch of Souls-likes for this list, I thought I would have some unconventional picks on here as well. And so I got Nioh, The World Ends With You. And I feel like it doesn't get any more underrated or unconventional than this. I actually really enjoyed this game more than I ever thought I would, low-key more than the original, and I feel like it's one of the most slept on games of the 2020s. While it might be a sequel to that original World Ends With You on DS, it very much is still its own story, taking place in Shibuya and seeing everybody forced to partake in this interesting Reapers game where there are real stakes and people can die. I actually love the story to this game. I really enjoy all of the characters. The dialogue's interesting. and I found it to be thoroughly compelling from start to finish. But what I also really liked was the music and the presentation, both of which are just amazing. Like, game looks great, sounds great, but the gameplay is actually pretty good as well. Rather than tapping all over the screen like the original, now you link the pins to buttons. And man, this combat was just so much fucking fun, honestly. I had so much fun spamming all of these attacks and just going nuts, building my character up with all these different pins. And then there's also a lot of mixing and matching. Like, it became almost a little addicting, to the point where I was kind of sad when I was done with the game because I was having so much fun with the combat. I think the game is a great pace throughout. It's not stupidly long. It was just a really good experience, and I know not enough people played this one because everybody who's played this game can agree it's pretty freaking awesome, and I didn't see all that many people scream into the high heavens about it, so I will. It's a great game. So here's another good one with The Outer Worlds 2. Yeah, you probably didn't expect to see this one on here, but no, I actually really do enjoy The Outer Worlds 2, and I think it's a big step up from the original, and it's probably the closest thing we've had to an actual Fallout game for the last, I don't know, 10 years. While it might have a 2 in the title, you really don't need to have played the original. It does have some references and mentions of the original, but it tells its own unique story that I actually thought was pretty cool. Something else that I thought that was really cool was just how many choices this game lets you make. It is a true role-playing game in that sense. You will make choices at the beginning of the game that will actually affect shit like right at the very end. And it does a great job at actually making them feel meaningful, way more than any Bethesda game has in years, or even the original Outer Worlds. You'll get a bunch of companions. These are kind of hit and miss, but I didn't outright dislike them or feel totally indifferent to them like, say, Avowed. And I like that it really feels like you get to build a character in this world. I also think the combat is surprisingly good. I went into this expecting the combat to be kind of whatever or an afterthought, kind of like the Fallout game, but no, it's actually good. The gunplay is solid. There's a bunch of cool weapons here. The loot is really good. There's a good sense of exploration. There's a lot of quests. It was very enjoyable from a gameplay perspective. This is one game I would absolutely love to go back to and spend even more time with, because it's actually a lot better than I think most people expected it to be. Writing's good, story's good, gameplay's solid, it looks nice. I feel like there's not all that much to dislike here. If you're somebody who's been waiting for that next Bethesda RPG, or you were really just disinterested in Starfield, I think this one is worth checking out. I've obviously made a bunch of comparisons to Bethesda related games here, but look, this game is doing itself no favors. They want you to remember that they made New Vegas and that it's kind of similar, alright? But honestly, it kind of stands toe to toe with a lot of Bethesda's best, and I'm not even capping here, it's just a good game. The next one is another that I just don't speak enough on, and that is Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Now, the Xenoblade Chronicles franchise might not be the most traditional action RPG series, but what even is traditional anymore? I certainly wouldn't call this turn-based, so naturally, we're going with action here. This isn't really connected to the first two games, and it tells its own unique story, and it's a big ol' epic adventure. Yeah, it is full of a bunch of anime bullshit and tropes, but I still found it to be incredibly intriguing and somewhat compelling. Like the other Xenoblade games, you are dropped in a pretty big world here. There's a lot of things to do, and you'll spend a very long time on this game. This is easy 70, 80 hours. Even if you do just a fraction of the side content, you'll be playing this one really as long as you want, it feels like. But I think for the most part, you're going to have a pretty good time with this one. While the combat might certainly take a bit of time to get used to, I mean, there's just so much shit going on screen here, and some of the battles do drag a little too long. I think it still has some of the best action RPG combat of the last few years. It really is expanded on from what the original Xenoblade Chronicles had. And while it might not be my absolute favorite action RPG combat, I still did enjoy my time with it, genuinely. And if all this content wasn't enough for you, there's even DLCs that add even more to this game. Yep, you're looking at 100+ hours, so if you get into it, you can get real into it. And I would argue that this is the best RPG exclusive for the Nintendo Switch. This, or Xenoblade 2 really, but Xenoblade 2 came out in the 2010s. We're looking at the 2020s, baby. We're in the big 2026, and this is a good one. And then to end things off here, yeah, I thought I'd include another Souls-like. There were so many I could have chosen. Another Crab's Treasure, Black Mid Wukong, the list goes on and on. But I'm actually going with Stellar Blade. I don't talk about this one too much, and looking back, I really did enjoy my time with Stellar Blade. This one is a bit more of a character action, hack and slash Souls-like versus some of these other Souls-likes that feel much more like RPGs, but it still has plenty of RPG elements. Something that I think is really great about Stellar Blade, probably the best thing about it, the combat. Oh, I love the combat to this game, particularly the parry. It's one of the greatest parries I've ever seen in a game. It feels amazing. The combat is excellent. It's smooth, intuitive, quick, challenging, and most importantly, fun. I had a great time with the combat. It was why I kept playing this game. The level design, the open areas, the quests, shit, the story, it's all just kind of whatever to okay. Some people like it, some people aren't the biggest on it. I kind of fall in between, but the game's combat absolutely kept me hooked throughout. If you're playing this game, well, you're probably playing it for the main character Eve, but if you're not playing it for her, and you're playing a video game, you know, for the video game and not to goon to the characters, it's probably for the combat. This game has some incredible boss fights, moments, and set pieces that still honestly live rent-free in my head all these years later. While it's not the most innovative or original Souls-like or action RPG, it's refined, it's solid, it looks nice, the music is good, and it's a damn good time. I don't praise this one enough. Maybe I'll change that in the future, or I'll forget about it for another 6 months and bring it up and be like, damn, I actually really like that game. Either way, all the games I talked about are pretty good. Obviously, there's tons of other action RPGs I could have included on here. I could have included, Crimson Desert. Why wasn't there? It's because I haven't played a ton of it and I'm not ready to say if it's a great action RPG. Anyway, enough of that. That's the end of today's video. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. Stay safe, y'all. Bye-bye.